you been fishing recently, Eric?
No, but I'm fixing to start going soon. I haven't. I've been real busy with work and uh, athletics competitions.
Yeah,
So I
I
haven't
saw
been
you
able to.
went to you had a canceled basketball game for your daughter, I guess.
Yeah, that it was almost a blessing in disguise because that game would have been about a 2 hour drive one way. So it kind of hurt my feelings, but it didn't at the same time.
Yeah, I know, I was wondering because I was left wondering, did you actually drive the 90 minutes or did you get did you get the cancellation in time? But I guess you got it in time.
Yeah, it was canceled the night before, but
Yeah.
I had I was going to share that before, but I forgot to hit send. So
Yeah, no
I
worries.
told her I would make it right.
Yeah, that's good. Um, Eric, I was wondering, this is the first, we've been doing our Sunday spaces, and we'll be doing one later today, as usual on Sundays. But we thought that we do with we'd start doing some video talks as well, because it's a little bit more engaging for at least a lot of people like those as well. And so you're the first, you're the guinea pig for the
All right.
for that. And I guess we thought that you're an experienced teller of your story, so we'll have a good one. I have some questions prepared as well, but I guess the first, my first question, although I guess I kind of know the answer because I'm reading all your tweets, but what happened? What happened in your life that you got to a point that you got to the second point that meant that you wanted to do a change back?
I guess if I had to say, it would have been my marriage to start with. Uh, a lot of times when people go on a weight loss journey, they've been a person of weight. Let's just say that, um, or maybe they were morbidly obese, like I was, super morbidly obese. Maybe they've been that way their whole life, and that's all they knew. From the time they were a child. And I know it's really prevalent here in the States, childhood obesity, and then people, living that way their whole life. That wasn't the case for me. Uh, all the way up until probably the age of 23, maybe 24, I was in a fairly decent shape, other than smoking cigarettes. That was probably the only vice that I had
Yeah.
at my health that time. Uh, then probably around age 25 is when I started putting on weight. I was not being as active, when you know how that is when you start having children and life slows down with work and family responsibilities. Your uh, athletic needs and wants kind of takes a back seat to
For sure.
raising children. So that had a big that had a big step in the process. And just wasn't eating like I should. My children's mother was not a very good cook, so uh, and I was working 10 to 12 hour shifts, so there was a lot of started eating a lot of fast food and a lot of stuff that a lot of quick meals, which we all know that relates to not good. But
Trouble.
so yeah, that, and then around, January of 2008 is when we separated and divorced later that year. So the next year and a half or so after that is when things really started getting bad. But I was in such a state mentally, dealing with that I really didn't, I didn't really care. And it didn't take long. It only took maybe 2 or 3 years to to really start noticing that I've got a problem because I tried to lose weight in 2013 because that's when when I first realized like, hey, something's wrong. But it was food had such a hold on me, and we all know I'm not beating on the dead horse, but we all know how addictive food is.
Sure.
Even though some out there claim that we're just using it as a crutch, uh, but it had such a hold on me. I couldn't get it off of me. It was almost like we have a we have a saying here in the southern United States. If you ever get bit by a snapping turtle, the turtle will not let go until it thunders. So the food had a hold on me, and I couldn't get it off of me up until about 2020. September of 2020, I got up to my highest. I was 457 pounds,
A man of
and I'm
substance.
yes, yeah, a lot of substance. And that was when I said, I've got to do something. I just I can't keep living like this. And that's when uh, tried to I tried to get bariatric surgery, but my health insurance wouldn't cover it because I didn't have any comorbidities. Even though I was 457 pounds and BMI of 50 something, insurance wouldn't cover it, and I couldn't pay for it. But it was going to be like 10,000 US dollars to have the surgery, and I didn't have it. So I just kept doing what they were having me do, which was keto and about 1,500 calories a day. But the problem with that was, I did that for about 6 or 7 months. But the problem was trying to restrict my calories led me to ravenous eating. So when I did eat, I'd eat all my calories in one meal. And so, like I said, that only lasted about 6 or 7 months, and I lost 70 pounds, but I turned around and gained 50 back. And
Yeah.
then that led us to January of 23, a little over a year now. We were in the Bahamas and getting off the boat, and I just looking at myself in the mirror. I just didn't like what I saw. I, you know, I, we had been on the trip for about 2 days, and I had already just wasn't having a good time at all. And I said, okay, I said, enjoy this trip because when we get back, it's time to start, and it's time to get it done. And so we got back from the trip, and I got sick. Uh, being on a ship with 2,000 other people, it was bound to happen. So got back, and I was sick. So I was sick for about a week. When I got to feeling better, that's when I started. And that's something I tell people. I said, I've not been sick one time since then.
Mm.
And that's just it's a testament to what we eat, how it affects our health. And still to this day, I have people that say, "Well, you just got lucky that you've not been sick." I said, I don't call it luck. I call it what it is. So so that's kind of a just a quick little backstory there. I've I felt like if I didn't change when I did, I was never going to change. So I got complacent where I was at and what I was doing. And that's not a very good combination, especially when we know how addicting food is. It it really it's really something that needs to be talked more about, I feel like.
Yeah, I agree. I agree wholeheartedly on about that. I think, and I think your point on complacency, it's somehow I think I guess our default mode is maybe complacency, and we need to have some kind of either habit or specific motivation which can then support us until we make a new better habit and to stick with it, whatever it is, whether it's food related or other things as well. But
I feel like uh, humans are creatures of habit, probably the biggest creatures of habit. If we get out of our routine, if we get out of our daily routine, which I have been the last 2 weeks with my shoulder injury. I've had more injuries the last 6 months from being healthy than I did when I was, morbidly obese. But that's part of it. And I think that was to me that was one of the biggest things that kept me from doing any exercises or anything when I was obese. It's like, 'cause it's going to hurt. I'm going to hurt. I can't do that. My knees are going to hurt. And that was one reason. Another reason, as if I needed more. Uh, a lot of the reasons that I didn't do any exercises. But uh,
so what are your main what are the main things that you where you feel an advantage or a huge positive thing? Like, is it no hurting joints, or what would it be?
oh yeah, yeah, that's a big one. Uh, Before I started this journey, both my knees hurt, my my hands, my wrists just ache all the time. My elbows, I suffered from. It was more like carpal tunnel in my hands, sleep apnea, skin problems, skin itching, just so many different things. And I never did correlate it in my mind that it was what I was eating, and it wasn't, that had a big thing on my health. A big step to getting better was realizing what I was doing to myself.
Yeah, I guess most of us
So
don't realize that, do we? I mean,
No,
we're not really we're not really told. I think at least my experience is that I used to have, when I was a teenager, I had incredibly bad skin, a lot of acne, and all doctors, all specialists, plastic surgeons, whatever, eh, everyone said no, it's completely unrelated to food. If you have enough doctors telling you that, I'm not a doctor, I'm not a specialist in those things, so you believe it, and then you think, okay, none of the other stuff is working either, so I guess I'm just doomed.
that's
mm,
right.
Which is
so Eric, I think what you said at the start was basically you got to the point where enough is enough. And I think
Yeah,
that's everybody. This is so once we're already underway and we're getting our lives back on track, we do tend to forget that. What I do, and you're quick to judge other people. I'll hold my hands up with that.
yeah,
But that's one of the things which is most important is when you sort of look in the mirror, and then there's that first time where you're like, actually, this is worse than I thought, so I need to sort it out. Um, and when it comes to your thoughts on um, not wanting to do the exercise because of the potential pain at the beginning, did you sort of lose a certain amount of weight to start with, and then you thought, right, I can do this, I'm going to start training now, or was it everything all at once?
when I first started, it was a chore just to walk. It was taxing on my knees. Uh, when I started this time, I was 432 pounds, and I set a goal when I first started. I said I'm going to start walking, and I'm going to walk 15 minutes. And that first 15 minutes, I walked in a graveyard in a cemetery. It's uh, close to where I live, and it's fairly flat, and it's a quiet place to walk, and it kind of gives you perspective. So I was using that as not only motivation, but a place to
Yeah, yeah,
exercise.
I didn't realize that, but that is probably
Yep.
good motivation, isn't it?
And so I would walk, 15 minutes, 20 minutes, and then I would, uh, instead of doing time, I was doing mile. I was trying to get at least a half a mile. And then a few weeks later, I got to three-quarters of a mile. And then uh, I thought, well, I'm going to try to do a mile under 20 minutes. And then next thing you know, I'm walking every day at least a mile. But it took about a month and a half, 2 months to get to that point. And then that's when I realized I really needed to start doing more than just walking. So I started doing sit-ups and push-ups and stuff like that. When I'd get done walking, I just do some quick exercises there in the park. I moved from the cemetery to the park, and I would get all kind of looks from people. Here I am doing sit-ups on the ground, but you know, uh, looking back, that's kind of it was a humble start. But uh, if it wasn't raining today, I'd go out there and do it right now. Uh, to me, walking is the easiest form of exercise that we can do, and it's at the same time it's the most beneficial too for somebody starting out. It low impact, but it just getting them moving your body. I feel like that's the biggest thing, along with our quote unquote diet. But you're right. Yeah, it's a daunting task to some people because they know how hard it is to go out and shop. They know how hard it is just to walk to the mailbox and back. Um, they know how hard it is to go up and down stairs. And so when they think about having to walk long distance, it terrifies them, I think.
Yeah, for sure. And probably there's a bit of kind of having resignated to one's fate, given up a little bit as well. That it's not gonna work anyway. So why
Yeah.
bother?
The seeds of doubt.
Yeah, yeah,
It's our mind plays some very bad tricks on us,
indeed.
and I think once somebody gets a taste of success, so to speak, since we like to talk about how good food tastes, you see that a lot. Healthy tastes better than any food, or some iteration of that
Yeah,
saying.
exactly. Yeah.
Uh, Once I started seeing that the scale drop, hey, this is going to work, and this is working.
Eric, what did you do in diet wise? Did you switch also in January 23? Did you switch directly to carnivore, or how did you? I don't remember
Uh,
exactly, but of course I followed it already. But
yeah. So what I did is I just I went low carb.
yeah,
I was eating so much bread and sugar related stuff that I knew if I quit cold turkey that I would fail. So, and this was coming from a 16-year smoker who quit cold turkey in 2012. And I tell people it was harder for me to put down bread and sugar than it was to put down cigarettes. And they just give you this dumb look on their face. And I have to tell them, I say, look, we don't have to smoke. You don't have to drink. You don't have to do drugs, but you have to eat. And that's what gets us. So in my situation, I set a date. I said, okay, on January the 28th, I'm going to stop eating bread. I'm going to stop eating a lot of a lot of sugar related items. So that day I cut bread out, and the first couple 2 or 3 days was really hard because I was around that stuff and it was in my everyday life. So I made it through that first week. I thought, okay, I can do this. So I at the same time I stopped drinking carbonated beverages, diet drinks, and uh, I was cutting my diet drinks with sparkling water.
Yeah.
I can't remember who posted that on Twitter at the time, but they said, okay, so here's what you want to do when you're trying to stop drinking your soft drinks, diet drinks, whatever. Cut a quarter of it out and add sparkling water. A few days later, do half. A few days later, do uh, three quarters, and then by the time you get a few days later, you're drinking full sparkling water. And I did that, and that really helped too. So I don't think I can think of maybe 3 or 4 times in the last year that I've had a diet carbonated beverage,
How did it
and
taste?
not good. It was even being the diet version, it was, you could still taste the syrup and all the added flavors, and I
It's
just
horrible.
so this is my carbonated beverage choice now. Sparkling water. uh, to me, I have, you know my tastes have changed so much since then. It just doesn't do anything for me like it used to. And I used to be a heavy diet soda drinker. So that was,
I think that was
getting.
one of my biggest things as well, Eric, was carbonate, never sugary stuff, but everything with aspartame in it and the artificial sweeteners. I'd,
Oh yeah.
I'd, I'd honestly, I'd probably have like 5, 6 cans of Coke Zero a day. And from the end of August, when I went carnivore, because I was strict carnivore for about a month and a half, 2 months, and then slowly added the keto stuff in. Um, I would still when on the carnivore, I'd still have the Coke Zeros and stuff like that. And then one day I just stopped and I said, right, I need to focus on getting actual hydration in. So water with electrolytes, making sure I was getting at least 2 liters of water in throughout the day. And that was because I felt so much better. I then, when I would occasionally have a sugary drink, not a sugary drink, a carbonated drink, um, for me, I would want more. I'd just want to keep having them. So then, for me, it was like, right, this stuff is addictive. No matter what's in it, I'm just gonna have to stop. So like,
Yep.
say if I have a carbonated drink now, I'll only buy a single can or 2 cans, and then that's it. And then I don't have any more in the house, so I can't have it. Back to the water. That's the way I do it.
Well,
And it works for me.
yeah, and then that's when you're talking about electrolytes. I use uh, LMNT. That's my go-to for electrolytes. And I guess I got off track, Klaus. So I apologize. Uh, when I started my journey, like I said, I was trying to be more low carb and keto. I really didn't start carnivore until, I think it was the 1st of April. Uh, I'm pretty sure it was 1st of April because I started doing jujitsu in May, 1st of May, and I'd been doing carnivore for about a month. So from January the 28th to May the 1st, because we weighed in for jujitsu, I was 365 pounds on May the 1st. So I'm not very good at math in my head. So what's that? Almost 70 pounds.
Yeah.
And so I'd already lost 70 with, you know, low carb slash keto. But the the weight loss really, for me, it really jumped, when I went carnivore, because I was full strict for probably 2 months. For the all of May, I was very strict in May, and I was fairly strict in June. July, I fell off a few times, and then when I got injured in jujitsu, I fell off a few more times. So from May the 1st to, let's just say, September the 1st, I lost 50, 57 pounds. So almost 60 pounds in that time frame. So now I've had a few more times where I've fell off the wagon, so to speak, uh, but I've not regressed to where I was before. Uh, in fact, I'm doing another week of BB&E starting this morning, trying to do a reset. Uh, I've kind of, as many of you have been following, I've kind of been on a plateau since the first part of December, and I've not gained, but I've not lost either. And
That
it
that can
was
be that can be just as hard mentally if
oh
you
it
yeah.
it is, and it's like I don't know if you caught Vinny Tortorich's episode where he was saying that some of the women could hear me complaining about only losing 20 pounds and they're going to come kick me in the nether regions uh, for
Yeah.
complaining about only losing 20 pounds. But that was when he said that, and thinking about it myself, there's probably a ton of people that would love to lose 20 pounds in that time period. But to me, it seemed like a minuscule amount because I'd already lost so much. I'd lost 70 and then I lost 60. So, uh, it just it messes with your head sometimes, and I
Mm.
think we get in our own way a lot of the
100%.
time. So in defense of myself, if I may, when when I started weightlifting, I started doing that more. I knew I was building muscle, and not at the rate I probably should have, and I knew that was going to affect my weight loss, and I didn't let it bother me. But now that I've been kind of sidelined with injuries, I'm like, I really need to go back. But it's like my doctor told me, I actually got a injection in my shoulder. What was that, Thursday afternoon? So I got a few more days of quote unquote taking it easy, and then I'm going to try to go back. But he's limited
Definitely do
what.
take it. Yeah, definitely do take it easy though, especially with your shoulders because they're awkward. Shoulders can be awkward.
Yeah.
I've never had issues with my shoulders, but I've had issues with my back, and just take it easy for a little while. That's all I want
Well,
to say. Definitely.
oh yeah, and I am, and I've never really had issues with my shoulders uh, until I started doing martial arts, and
Hmm.
that's we came to a consensus. That's what happened. He didn't seem to think I had any like rotator cuff or anything like that, but he didn't want me to push it because I did that with my foot, and that I went back too early with my foot, and it
Yeah, I
pushed me back
remember.
another. Yeah,
Hmm.
Yeah.
I was in the boot for a month, but then I went back too quick, got back into everything too quick, and it set me back another 6 weeks.
Yeah.
So I've been my own worst enemy, if I could say that, the last 2 or 3 months. But I get that I got that taste of success, and it tasted really sweet, and I wanted
Mm.
more, but I kept pushing myself, and I have to remember that I'm 45. I'm not 25 anymore. And as much as I've gained in health the last year, I still have to remember that my body's catching up with.
Yeah, and I think there's a point as well that if we spend 10, 15, 20, whatever years to doing the wrong thing, it's amazing how quickly we can make up for a lot of that bad but we have to, not everything is going to happen within a few months or 6 months. We're going to have to give it some time. Wanted to ask you another question. What about fasting? Have you been utilizing fasting, time restricted eating, anything like that?
Yes, intermittent fasting is a big part of my journey. When I was applying for the bariatric surgery, that surgeon told me that I had to lose at least 50 pounds before I could have the surgery. And they implemented, that's where I learned intermittent fasting from. And so when the surgery was not an option, I just stayed with the 16/8 model of intermittent fasting. And when I decided back in January of last year that I needed to do something, that was the one thing that I added, plus low carb, was going back to intermittent fasting, because I had went back to eating all the time. If I was awake, I had something in my mouth. And so that's been a huge part. And as I said earlier, I fell off a few times the last couple of months, but I always get back on track. And uh, intermittent fasting is one way that helps me a lot. And I try not to eat past 7 or 8 o'clock at night, and usually don't break my fast until noon, maybe 1 o'clock the next day. Uh, there's been some days where I'll have some eggs in the morning, or some eggs and meat in the morning. To me, I feel like that's better than what I was eating.
Sure.
100%. Yeah,
for sure.
Any kind of bread products or anything like that. So I've learned to do without, and I'm not gonna starve. That's one thing I think a lot of people are afraid of. They're afraid to start intermittent fasting because I want to be starving to death. I can't do that. I have to eat.
Eric, that's what I thought. That my biggest block in the beginning, before I got started, was ooh, what about my kidneys, and I'm going to starve or something. And I thought, okay, I mean, I'm carrying like tens of thousands of calories of surplus around with me. How am I going to starve? It's just not going to happen, is it?
Yeah.
So
no. It's that
and
sensation.
Go ahead. I'm sorry.
It's all right. I was just saying, it's that sensation to start with, and since being sort of keto or carnivore based, the satiation you get from your meals is so powerful, especially with that egg week. It was unbelievable. Like, it was unbelievable. But so the other day we had a really bad night with our daughter. She was awake all night. I didn't have any food made, and then I had a 12-hour shift the next day.
Mm.
And part of me went, right, you're just eating easy energy today. So I had a normal 3 sort of standard Western diet for 12 o'clock, 4 o'clock, and tea time, which was probably about 8 o'clock by then. So 3 for meals. That first meal was fish and chips from the canteen. And I'm not joking, the pork, like, you can't really gauge scale, but it was massive like this. After I ate that, my stomach is not used to that sort of volume of food anymore. And I had like pain under my diaphragm for the whole day. And I thought that's what made me then have the other meals, was what's going to happen if you now eat like a sandwich? What's going to happen when you have, I can't remember what I had for tea, probably. It was like, I don't know. I can't remember. Oh, it was a potato and chicken curry. So the little cubes of potato, that wasn't too bad. But the actual pain under my diaphragm stayed for like 2 days. So I don't know what it was. You stretched your stomach, maybe. The gastroesophageal junction might have stretched, something like that. But that was like, it was weird because you've had this massive meal, and then a few hours later, I was like, no, I could eat that again. And so today, all I've had is 5 eggs, and it's for me, it's about 20 to 2 in the afternoon. I'm not hungry. I don't need any food. And it's like you're saying, what you had for breakfast, the bacon and eggs or whatever it was in that day, you're getting a nice influx of ketones into your system after having that meal. So, so you're going to feel a bit more energized. You're going to feel full for a long time. You're going to feel great.
Eric, it reminds me of your, talking about falling off the wagon and challenges. It reminds me of your Publix parking lot chocolate chip cookie challenge.
Yeah.
What other challenges have you had, and what's made you fall off the wagon, and how did you get back on the wagon?
Well, the egg challenge was brought up. I gave that a valiant effort, but I think my problem is I am my own worst enemy if I can bring that thing up again. I tried to eat too many at one time, and I just sabotaged myself. I did 8 fried and 4 scrambled, and it was really good. But when I got getting towards the end, I thought, man, what are you doing? It was tough, and I said, it filled me up for a long time. But the next day, I thought I can't even eat an egg, and so and I thought I'm gonna have to bow out. I said,
Yeah.
I'm just, and that's the thing, and like was said earlier, if we eat so much, our stomach kind of expands. But once you start eating like this, I honestly feel like our stomach shrinks,
That
you
must
know,
do. I agree with that 100%.
because, you can eat a couple of nice pieces of meat and some eggs, and it fills you up. But like you was saying, you ate that meal at your work, and it's made you swell up. But
Especially
hey,
even later that evening, the water retention, I get it here, like on my chin. And when I
yeah,
turn my head like this, I can always feel it. It's weird.
yep.
But you just pay attention to your body. And even though those few hours later, I could feel it. And it was like, right, that's enough. Finished. That's what my daughter would say, finished.
I
Enough of that.
when that happens to me, I feel it in my hands and in my
Yeah.
feet. My hands and my feet is where I feel it. But no, to go back to Klaus's question. Sorry, I got off track there. Uh, I fell off on the holidays, Thanksgiving and Christmas. But the difference between now and 10 years ago, 3 years ago, was I knew what was going to happen if I didn't get back on track. So I had a day, I gave myself a day, but the next day I went right back. So after our Christmas meal, I want to say I fasted 20 or 22 hours after that. And I've found that if I do have a bad meal, so to speak, I'll just fast for 20, 24 hours. I feel like if I do that, I get that out of my system,
Yeah.
uh, and and then I just start right back over. And I hate doing that, but I feel like if I do that, I right the wrong, so to speak,
Sure.
because if you, I feel like if you give your body that amount of time, you're going to get everything out of your system. Uh, but like I said, the biggest thing for me is that I know what's going to happen if I keep following that road. So I just push it aside and start new. Uh, like one of my favorite Gary Vaynerchuk's sayings is, "Don't sabotage tomorrow, worried about yesterday."
Mm.
Yeah, very
And
good. Yeah.
so I've learned to not do that, and that was very hard for me because I'm a worrier. I worry about stuff, but especially the last 6 or 7 months, I've learned to not do that. There's so much more that we can be thankful for and grateful for. and just move forward.
Yeah,
And
I think the sort of self-punishment that can be slippery slope to comfort eating again.
yeah, and it really is. And if you're someone like me that would use food as a crutch, as my drug of choice, that it was a very big step, because if I had a bad day at work, uh, I'd binge eat on pizza or whatever was available. And in my former jobs, I had a long commute, anywhere from 45 minutes to an hour each way. So, of course, in the United States, you've got plethora of fast food. Everywhere you turn, there's food. So, I would grab something on the way home and eat it. And then when I get home, I would cook supper for my kids. And so I would eat another time. And so that was another thing that I had to learn, was not cover everything up with food. Go for a walk or go outside and do some sprints, something to get that negative
Dopamine.
energy. Yeah, get that
Yeah,
negative energy out and get that dopamine hit. But
yeah.
Yeah.
I think something that I've always thought is um,
sorry about
when
that.
I've gone to America, I've been twice, and this the thing that I always look forward to is the fact that there is so many different fast food places. I last went in 2018, I think, so it's a while ago now. But that was one of the main reasons you go is, oh, I'm going to try all of this food. And I've always thought that if I ever lived in America, it would be so easy to gain weight, like, and a
Yeah.
large amount of weight. Like even in the Walmarts and places like that, there's so much choice of foods.
Oh
It's
yeah.
like like for people that haven't been to America, I think it'd be worth like looking at a video of the supermarkets and just like on a standard sort of road. It's, well, I know International Drive's probably the next level, but you've got everything you can think of on each sort of block, if that's what it's called. There's like a little, they're all in squares, aren't they? But an absurd
Um,
amount. But what I also thought was, I remember going around the Walmarts and seeing all of these. My thought at the time is different now, but I thought it would also be slightly easier to get your meals back on track because there's a large volume of healthy meals. Obviously, my understanding now is it will still be ultra processed and it will not be good for your body, as well as making your own food at home.
yeah.
But the sheer volume of food is absurd.
So what you said really, I wish I could find it. I was trying to find the post, but there's a chain of fast food restaurants that are local to my state and the surrounding areas. And they had put a post on Facebook asking their customers if they've used their app to order. And that's uh, with the drive-through service, with the apps, with the food delivery services, it's really made this stuff, in my opinion, worse for people, because it's like, oh, I can just punch up on my phone and have a meal. But my point I was trying to make was, this particular restaurant chain, their post was asking their customers how they like their app. And one guy's post said, I eat at your restaurant maybe twice. He said at least one time, maybe twice a day, every day. Every day, this guy's eating at this restaurant. And I used to be that guy.
Mm.
Their breakfast foods are probably the best in our area. They're fast, they're quick, they're you know they're they're what
Tasty
Americans
and
call
addictive.
biscuits. Oh yeah,
Oh
well,
yeah.
what Americans, especially Southern Americans, call biscuits. Uh, they're very good. They top them with butter, melted butter. So, they're very flavorful, but I think one biscuit with egg and sausage and cheese is 500-600 calories. So just one breakfast sandwich is, and then they add on a soft drink and they add on fried potatoes, hash browns. They're just little round hash browns. You're looking at 1,000 calories in one meal. And this guy's saying he eats at least twice a day, every day. And I went and I know it's bad of me and I felt bad about it, but his profile picture fit that narrative.
Yeah,
he was a big guy. He was what and you could see it in his face and everything. And he was complaining about the app, but I'm thinking the problem is right here. The problem is not the app. It's the problem is what you're putting in your face.
But this is where they get you. It's ease of use. It's quick. It's easy. You'll tasty. It'll fill you up, and that goes back to what I was saying. Is like it's once you're in the right mindset. I say it's easy to judge, but it's not directly judging that person. It's watching the whole system play out in front of you, isn't it? It's like there are these restaurants. It's easy to access. It's cheap. It's tasty. It's addictive. So that's the one thing that book, Ultra Processed People, I was always quick to blame the person. But when you understand these sort of additives, the ultra processing of these foods, is and in the advertising, you drive in, oh, there's a McDonald's here, there's this here, there's that there. It's everything is heavily weighed against us from the get-go.
I think there's a big thing in all of this is what I would call lifestyle or lifestyle change, and we are in a way we're fighting an uphill battle like you describe with the advertising we get, with the convenience we get with apps or whatever, and with all the other messaging that we also get. But I think the lifestyle change, once you understand what you have to do and what you have to no longer do, you can kind of you can win for yourself, but it requires you to stick with your lifestyle. And I think that's one of my questions to you was that what other lifestyle changes have you made? And I'm guessing one of them is that you're not eating a lot of fast food.
Yeah, that was one thing that I had to change what I ate and how I ate. And so if it comes down to a situation where I have to stop, just like during athletic season, we're traveling late at night, I'll do my best to try to get a low carb version. A lot of the places we go, I can order just meat. Last Thursday, after I had my doctor's appointment, I had to drive about an hour to my daughter's game. She had rode with a friend from school to the game, so I was late coming. But I stopped at another chain and got 4 of their hamburger patties, and and it was less than what a combo meal would have been, but not as I'm sure they use probably some cooking oil on their grill that I wouldn't agree with. But I feel like if you're only going to do that maybe once or twice a week,
for sure.
The side effects are negligible on that. But if I can, I want to go back to something you said real quick about the addictive properties of food and the advertising. I don't know if you remember, but a couple, maybe 2 or 3 weeks ago, I posted about Subway and their foot-long cookie.
Yeah, something about that I would do. Yeah,
they have really ramped up their advertising for that, and what they're doing, they're selling a foot-long churro for $2, US dollars, a foot-long soft pretzel for $3, and then the foot-long cookie's $5. And then that was always Subway's shtick for years, was a $5 foot-long. Now it's like $20 for a foot-long. It's not really. I'm just kidding. It's like maybe $10 or $12 for a foot-long. So what they're doing is they're saying these three things will pair really well with your sandwich. They're calling it what is that? Buddies. They're calling it a buddy to your sandwich. And so what somebody said on my post on X, when I said that, they said they're not telling you to eat that. Yes, they are. They're telling you that it goes with your sandwich. And they're like, well, nobody sits there and eat a foot-long cookie. I said, I would. I'd probably eat at least half of it.
Yeah.
And so that's always in our face. It's with advertising, billboards, TV commercials. That commercial runs a lot on our TV. And another place I saw it was at the fuel station. The screen on the fuel pump had that same commercial, and I'm like, we're bombarded with it.
It's everywhere. And you need that momentum. So you imagine a rocket going into orbit, you need to expel all of that mass, and then to actually break clear and into orbit, you can then breathe, you can look, and you can observe what systems are in place. But when you've not got out of that initial gravitational pull, you're fucked, aren't you? You're like everything is against you, 100%.
Yeah, 100%.
That was the thing that when I walked into that restaurant that day and I seen that on their menu, the first thing that drew me to it wasn't the cookie, it was the amount of calories under it, which I'm not a big, I don't want to go down that rabbit hole, but I'm not a big calorie in, calorie out guy. But it was almost 1,500 calories for that foot-long cookie. And I'm thinking, how many people, and I was just curious, I was like, do you have those pre-made? He's like, man, I can have you one here in just a few minutes. He's like, do you want me to put you one in the oven? I was like, no, I was just curious. I was like, if you have them pre-made, because their cookies are pre-made, they just grab one out and hand it to you. So, and he was selling me hard on it. He was trying to get me to buy one. And
good profit margin.
I'm not. I'm not doing it. But
I was thinking, if I was the sort of person which was calorie counting, this is probably why I stay away from it and choose to do keto and carnivore. I would think that's 1,500 calories. I'm allowed 2,400 calories, so I'm going to have one for sure.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? And then just you can, without having to go into detail, you know what that amount of sugar is going to do to your blood sugar levels, and it's not good, is it?
No.
So I'd rather just eat until I'm full when it comes to keto and carnivore, and then you do your workout, you feel fine, and as long as you're seeing the numbers going down on the scales and you're feeling stronger, that's the main thing. But when that feeling of you can achieve more than you could 2 months ago, you think, well, I'm on the right track.
Eric, how did you because you mentioned that earlier you'd if you had a difficult day or something like that, you'd eat a lot of pizza, or have something on the way home and then have dinner again. How do you cope with a bad day these days?
Buttered pork rinds.
Yeah, very good. I like that.
I feel like, and that, or I'll just, I'll just make me a couple of 2 or 3 eggs or something, I felt like once I started realizing that I couldn't use food as a crutch, I pretty much stopped. If it's a really bad day, like I said, I'll do me some make up some buttered pork rinds, or I'll have a slice of cheese, some extra sharp cheddar, or I'll even cut me a chunk of Kerrygold off and knock it down. But I don't turn to the comfort foods, so to speak. I think that was something that once I realized that it was doing me more harm than good, you know, or I would, it would be pizza or something, candy, a lot of sweets, chocolate or something. So
Yeah, sure.
so yeah, that one, or I'll have some Greek yogurt if I'm getting if I have a real hard sweet craving or craving for chocolate. I'll take some Greek yogurt and put some unsweetened cocoa powder in it, just a little bit, and mix it up. That gets that sweet craving away. Uh, and I don't want to give away a secret, but when I do the butter pork rinds, when I melt my butter, I'll put maybe a half a teaspoon of maple syrup in there and stir it up and put it on the pork rinds, and then add seasoning, and it tastes just like caramel popcorn.
Amazing.
It has it's it just that's what it reminded me of. And if I do have a sweet craving, I'll do that. And I know the maple syrup is pure sugar, but to me it would be better to eat that than something highly refined, something in a package.
Yeah, I mean, it beats the Publix cookie for sure.
Yes. Oh, definitely, because that one cookie, I mean, it's a big cookie, but that one cookie is like maybe 250, 300 calories. Again, I'm not a calorie counter, but to have that many calories in a cookie that's this thin and about that big around, it's full of junk. I would rather have a couple of hamburger patties.
Yeah,
If
yeah.
I'm gonna if I'm gonna
Yeah.
if I want to have a bunch of calories, I want it to be meat.
Eric, what would you advise? Somebody who is starting out on their weight loss journey. What would you advise them to do?
The first thing I would recommend would be to start intermittent fasting. Once you start that and you get yourself on a baseline, depending on your work schedule, and that I think that affects a lot of people if they have a night shift job, if they work at night, or they work in a setting where they can't eat a meal. Excuse me, they only have a certain time period to eat. If they'll start intermittent fasting, get their baseline going, and then I always say, I don't try to tell you how to eat or what to eat, but this is what worked for me. It may
Sure.
not work for you. I would move to the low carb spectrum, uh, because if you've ate the standard American diet for years, you're going to have withdrawal symptoms trying to get away from that. So that would be my recommendation: start intermittent fasting, go low carb / keto, and just get that. That presents its own problem, because in our country, if it's labeled keto, it's probably, if it's a packaged food, it's highly processed.
Yeah, yeah,
So I tell people, try to eat whole one ingredient foods. You know,
100%. Yeah.
yeah,
uh,
yeah.
if you there's still, which I know you guys see it on X, even especially in our country, there's a lot of pushback if you try to go full carnivore. Uh, and I realized that this was something that Vinny Tortorich said in one of his episodes. You can't just say to people, uh, "Eat this way," because all you're going to do is push them away.
Mm.
People don't like being told what to do. but I know several people that have seen my results and they're like, well, it's working for him. And then they see other people, you know, I think humans are visual learners more than they are hands-on. If they see it,
Sure.
okay, well,
Yeah.
it's working. So I would never tell somebody go full carnivore. And I get that a lot. I know you guys do too. And people mean well. We mean well. We just don't know as humans. I mean, we
Yeah,
mean
sure.
well when we give advice, but a lot of times people give unsolicited advice. And
Mm.
and I try to thank them and everything, but when you get inundated with messages and replies daily, sometimes it's kind of hard to reply to them. So I just let it go. But there's a lot of people that say, "Hey, how do you do it? You have such your willpower." And I tell them I have zero willpower. My willpower sucks. I mean, it's bad. Uh, it's
It's
once you,
consistency, isn't it?
yeah,
It's
it
especially
really
with
is.
keto and carnivore. I feel like 100%. Carry on.
When you,
Sorry, that was just.
no, you're fine. Sorry. When you find what works for you, that's why there's a lot of people there's a lot of people that I follow. They're not carnivore,
Yes.
but they're they don't eat any processed foods. They're
Mm.
uh, the whole food, one ingredient, food people. And I feel like, to me, that if everybody would follow that model, they would have a lot more success. Because
For
once you
sure.
start adding those box foods, is what I like to call it, the highly processed foods, you're you're going to get addicted to all those additives. And and it's hard for me personally. It's hard because I still have teenage children at home, and I get a lot of pushback. Why don't your kids eat the way you do? Because they're not going to eat like that. They're kids. They don't. It's my fault because I fed them the way I did all them years. They're used to that. Uh, Now they're also of the age they can make their own decisions. And I tell them, if you want to eat like this, fine. I will cook this for you. But I'm not going to buy you a bunch of junk foods. If you want them, you can spend your money on it. So I'm putting the ball in their court.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah,
If you
I
want to
think
do,
that that's a good strategy. I know I ramble on about this book a lot. Ultra processed people is really worth it, but it explains everything in great detail, and you already come to the conclusion yourself, which is we're surrounded by these foods anyway. You can give everyone the information they need, but it's up to them to make the decision at the end of the day. And I think that's what what you're saying when it comes to giving people advice. I'm exactly the same. I don't ever say you should do a low carb way of life from the get go. What I do if someone's after advice, I say it just starts with sort of learning and reading. So I'll always offer them that book to start with, and then once you get to the exact same outcome, which you said, Eric, which was one ingredients product. So your fruit and veg, if that's what they want to do, meats, cheese, etc. So you're not getting anything which comes out of a packet and it's got a huge ingredients list for a little product like this. Like
yep.
that's a recipe for disaster like that. But go back to natural foods and things that we would eat hundreds of years ago. Definitely.
Did
You
you,
know,
Eric? Did you use any? Have you used any kind of weight loss or fitness apps or fasting apps or anything like that?
I use the zero fasting app.
Yep. Yeah, me too.
I also use uh, the strong uh, weightlifting app, exercise app, to keep up with my weightlifting. Although I haven't used it in about 2 weeks now, but that and Apple Fitness, I use that to track my walks, my runs, uh, any other type of exercise. I do use my Fitness Pal also when I do track my meals. Again, I say this, I'm not a calorie counter, and that's one of the beauties of the way of this this way of eating. And I tell people I don't have to worry about how many calories I eat. I eat till I'm full. And so I do use that app, to kind of keep up with what I'm eating. But I take a lot of pictures. That's, to me, when I take a picture of my meal, I know what I ate, because I may not remember what I ate 3 days ago, a week ago, a month from now. Oh, what was I eating? Oh, okay. So, I pull it up. Because I don't always put it on the app, but I always try to take a picture of everything that I eat.
Yep.
But again, it goes back to, I think this way of eating, it simplifies a lot of things. Number one, you don't have to worry about a bunch of ingredients. Number two, you ain't got to worry about what you're eating. I think that should be number one.
Yeah.
But it really simplifies things, because you don't, for instance, the spices and things that I cook with has dramatically lowered. Depending on what cut of beef that I eat, it's usually cooked in tallow, or I may cook it in butter. That's usually the only two things I cook with. Save the occasional olive oil. So yes, sorry to get off track, but yes,
no,
those are the apps.
We like off track.
those are those are the apps that I use.
Eric, what you say about olive oil compared to beef tallow, Klaus would probably be interested as well. The levels of omega-6 in beef tallow was like 0.01. Olive oil was 0.25, and then olive oil was 0.5. So yes, it's got twice the amount of omega-6. But if you compare that to, I think it was rapeseed oil was like nearly 3 milligrams of the same sort of serving. So olive oil has got place, in my opinion. So if you add some, then
I think of the seed oils, the canola or rapeseed oil is the lowest in omega-6 of all the seed oil, industrially manufactured seed oils, but it still has typically a quarter of it's about a quarter of omega-6, a quarter of the weight of the oil. So it is actually pretty high in omega-6. So, but I think olive oil in the amounts that we normally use it is, I think it's unproblematic. And of course, tallow, any animal-based fat is not really. Honestly, it's not
negligible
really
amounts in animal fat, isn't there? Definitely.
So,
and Klaus, just a question for you. So while we're sort of on that, sort of in and out of the topic of advice to people just starting out, because this is what is interesting, is your story has you coming into this from your aspect. Eric's got his aspect as well. So just for you, what would your advice be on the same topic?
What my advice?
Yeah, for someone starting out. So say if someone's coming to you and said,
it's pretty much the same. It's pretty much the same as what Eric said. I think my way, I probably express it just. I'm a different person, so I express it differently. But I answered the question. There was a question I think yesterday about this on X, and I said cut the carbs. So reduce your carbohydrates as much as possible. It doesn't have to be zero, but if you aim for very low or zero, you'll have some carbs still left, but it's going to make a huge difference. That's number one. And then I'd eliminate industrially processed oils out of my diet. That means that almost all processed food is gone as well if you stick to that. So it's just a more complicated way of saying that. Eat whole foods. So cut the carbs, eat whole foods, and don't drink your calories. And no matter what anyone says, no sugar, no oats, no grains. It's not good for you. So those would be the main ones. That's where I would start. And in fairness, to Eric's point on the intermittent fasting or time restricted eating, in fact, when I started, my day one was a 16:8, and then I narrowed my window to 18:4. These days it's 18:6, and then these days it's either one meal or one meal and a small something within maximum 4 hours, and that kind of happened. That takes care of itself. So I think if you go for 16:8 and then just see what happens. So no need to get hysterical, religious, cultish, or anything. You're not going to die if you eat a vegetable or even a bunch of vegetables, but you may feel much better if you limit it and make sure that the vegetables you eat are low starch and low carb. So that's kind of it.
I agree 100%. I've going back to the olive oil thing. About the only time I use olive oil is when I cook shrimp, or what I call my version of quote unquote fried rice, but it's rice cauliflower.
Yeah, sure.
Yeah.
And back to your point, Klaus, I haven't reintroduced a lot of vegetables to my diet, but rice cauliflower is it's probably about the only vegetable that I eat other than fermented cabbage, sauerkraut.
Yeah,
So
exactly.
I
think it's cauliflower rice is pretty, completely harmless in my opinion. How are you going to overeat that? I did when I started out, I was doing keto for 18 months, and it involved, because I was doing a lot of recipes, because I came from the sort of the gourmet, doing lots of fancy foods kind of side. So I was into doing recipes. So I did a lot of keto recipes, and that meant that I was using a lot of cabbage, broccoli, and these kind of things, which are very actually satiating in combination with protein and fat. And boy, do you lose weight quickly, because it's just water and fiber. So there's nothing much to digest. And I think, I cured 40 years of irritable bowel syndrome while still eating quite a lot of fiber, not huge amounts, but quite a lot of fiber still. So I think no need to be scared of vegetables, for sure not. I think for me, the reason I'm almost 100% carnivore, almost 100% of the time, except my sauerkraut, my 20 grams of sauerkraut. The reason for that is just is because it makes things even simpler than they were before, and it means I need to spend less time around food. I never need to even pretty much think about food. I just grab some meat or some eggs. That's it. And food, where it was, let's say, if it was 100% of a certain space of my mind before, it's now 10% of what it was before. So, and I think that's one of the methods, and that makes it easy to be successful long term, is that the role of food becomes much, much less. And then when you combine it with various types of fasting and a relatively narrow eating window, it's also very easy to simply not eat anything. You can just wait until tomorrow if push comes to shove. When I travel or other reasons, then I can just wait until the next day, and that's it. And it's not a problem. Other than, of course, I still like to eat. I have to admit that. But.
Oh yeah. And I agree 100% with that. When I went keto / low carb, one of my favorite meals would be, some sort of protein meat with broccoli and Brussels sprouts. Growing up, I never ate Brussels sprouts because my mom had a rule at in our house when I was growing up. she wouldn't make me eat anything that she wouldn't eat. Unfortunately, she liked black-eyed peas and some things that I didn't like. And so, but she didn't like Brussels sprouts. So we never ate Brussels sprouts and we never ate greens. And even though growing up in the southern United States, turnip greens and mustard greens and the like, spinach are, very popular. But I was eating uh, Brussels sprouts, I was eating broccoli, I was eating the greens. And um, if somebody wants to eat them, that's fine. That's what you eat is your decision. I could care less. But for me, I haven't had Brussels sprouts in probably 6 or 7 months. And this was coming from a guy that was eating them 2 to 3 times a week, at least. I wasn't eating them the same way. Sometimes they would be boiled, sometimes they would be roasted, sometimes they would be fried in butter and bacon grease. But I don't have that craving for them anymore. Um, Back to your point, I found what fills me up, and uh, I just don't. Uh, I can't think the last time I had broccoli, and I was eating broccoli more. I was probably eating it 3 or 4 times a week, and I like broccoli. I like
Sure.
Brussels sprouts, but I just don't. I don't have that craving anymore. It's like you said. It it was doing one job, and it was
Yeah, now it's like,
it,
what's the point almost?
yeah. I mean, like I can eat more eggs. I can eat more meat. I'm not going to eat a dozen eggs, but I'm gonna have 2 or 3 eggs, and that's the beauty part about eggs that a lot of people don't really know. Uh, Personally, I can't eat a bunch of boiled eggs. I can eat maybe 2 or 3 hard boiled eggs, and that's it.
Yeah,
And
tough.
one of my favorite ways to eat that is with canned tuna.
Yeah, it's
A
nice.
couple of boiled eggs and a can of tuna.
Yeah, yeah,
That's a good meal.
good combo.
Um,
Yeah.
so
Eric, what about the future?
Yeah,
What's
that's what I was going to
what are
ask
your
as well,
your
Klaus. Yeah.
next goals? Where's your journey going? And
uh,
you
Is
don't
there
need
a
to commit.
strategy?
No need to commit.
well, I've got when I first started, I don't know why. I threw 225 pounds out as my goal. That's where I wanted to get to.
Yeah,
But now that I see, where I'm at the last 3 or 4 months, I've kind of been in that plateau, so to speak. Um, I want to. I'm just going to take it slow. I'm not. I know that I'm at this portion where the weight loss is dramatically decreased, and I'm okay with that. Uh, do I want to get lower? Yeah, I want to get lower, but I know that's going to probably take another year, maybe longer.
yeah.
But
So what?
I've pretty much, and it pains me to say it, but I've pretty much stopped martial arts. That was a good period in my life. I really was looking forward to that, and I was wanting to do that. But I've moved on to some different projects, and I think that's something that I had to do to keep myself busy instead of thinking about food.
Ballet. Are you starting ballet?
No, 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 not, not yet. Uh, I'm not much of a dancer, but no, I have, uh, you know, I want to get back into weightlifting, but like I said, with my shoulder injury, that's kind of uh, been put on the back burner. But um, I do have a 5K planned in June. I actually got Frank is coming down, and another Eric. Eric's a lot closer to me. He's only about an hour of drive away, but Frank is over in Missouri, so him and his significant others, or not. Maybe I misspoke. I don't know if it's his significant other, maybe just a really good friend. but they're coming, to do the 5K with me. And I think that's one thing I know you guys can relate, is the amount of support that we have
Yeah,
on
100%.
X and other forms of social media. That's helped me out a lot. But uh, my long term goal is to get back down and to keep this weight off, and to keep living this lifestyle, because I feel like I'm doing the right thing for myself. All my doctors are happy. I haven't, uh, other than my orthopedic doctor, I've been seeing him way too much. Um, you know, uh, that's I guess that's it in a nutshell. I've got a couple of different projects that I'm working on, and uh, I feel like I might have tried to go all out too much on some things, but I've kind of roped that in, so to speak, and just enjoying life. Uh, that's kind of my plan for the future.
Sounds
Uh,
good.
take it
Mm.
take it day by day.
Do and I guess you plan to keep running your project X as well here on X. Well, not here on X now, we're on Zoom, but
Yeah,
on X. I think it's my guess is that it's tremendously useful for many people, especially when they're in the process of let's say doing their weight loss or doing their health improvement. It's tremendously useful for them to see other people who are just normal human beings as well, who fall off the
yeah,
wagon and who get back on the wagon, and kind of motivating people to keep going, even if they have some problems from time to time doing what they're doing. And I think it's an important, it can be an important part of the virtual support network for a lot of people.
yeah. I feel like we're all on the same journey, even though
Mm.
Yeah,
we're in different stages.
sure.
And there may be somebody that watches this episode and says, well, I can do that. And I think that's the biggest thing that people need to realize, is that you can do it. It's going to be tough. It's going to suck. You're going to fail on some things, but the sun will come up tomorrow.
Yeah,
It'll
the
be a new
journey
day.
continues.
It's yeah. You just gotta get back on the horse and keep riding. Um, that's why it's called a journey and not an adventure. And it's like, I think Klaus said it earlier. You know, it took 10, 15, 20 years to get this way. You're not going to fix it overnight.
Yeah, and
It's
there's not necessarily any pressure for instant success or instant gratification. That being said, I think a lot of people will experience that the healing process is much faster than the 20-30 years you spent trying to destroy your body and your mind.
and that I'm glad you brought that up, because I feel like there's so many gimmicks out there. There's so many uh, quick fixes that in reality we just need to slow down. And I don't want to say the term naturally, because I don't know if that's even a statement, but it's just do the little things.
Yeah, that's it.
Change your way of eating. Is I mean, that's it's so incredibly stupidly easy,
Yes.
that it's the biggest thing, and it's the easiest thing, but it's also hard at the same time. And I think what it is, a lot of people have got we've gotten so used to as I said earlier, we're creatures of habit. We're used to eating this way. And then our mind gets trained. Hey, we have to eat like this. You have to have that certain ingredient. You have to have that. Your body needs that. And then uh, it's good to have a voice of reason out here, because you can go on X and see 15 different opinions about what to eat until you find out what works for you. That quick fix is not going to work. The one thing about quick fixes is, in my experience, is they don't work.
Yeah, that's for sure. Also, I think with all due respect to fitness influencers in their mid-20s, if you are in your 40s, 50s, 60s, and whatever, maybe a fitness influencer in their mid-20s doesn't have the solutions that you need. Your metabolism might be different, and likely is different, and you just need to take a different approach. And I think the upside of that is that when you grow up and get older, most people have the capacity to, I think, to put things in perspective, and maybe also be a little bit kinder to themselves, a little bit easier than they could before. So.
I agree.
Well,
great. Any wrap up comments from James or from Eric?
I just want to say thank you for doing this, Eric. Thank you, Klaus, for hosting. You're definitely an inspiration to many people, and it's been nice getting to know you a bit better. And hopefully we can do this again sometime.
Yep. Yeah. Thanks for having me. I appreciate you extending a invitation. If I could say anything to anybody, I would say, you have to believe in yourself. The road is tough. It is hard. There's going to be a lot of bumps and turns and twists and obstacles, but just keep going. The saying, a body in motion stays in motion. If you keep going, yeah, you're going to have bad days. You're going to have days where, you might fall off the wagon, but you can get right back on. I think that's a big part of it, is getting over that mental hurdle. And once I realized what I was doing to myself, and knew that it wasn't these outside forces that was doing it, it was me. I was self-sabotaging, so to speak. So once you realize what you have to do, it kind of puts everything into perspective. And I think it's personal accountability is huge. And that's why, a lot of people, why would you share what you share? You're oversharing. Well, I'm doing that for me. I'm trying to keep myself accountable.
Yeah.
If I help somebody else on the way, that's a plus.
Yeah, definitely.
So I mean, that's that would be my opinion on the matter. So
that's great. Anyway, thank you for joining us this relatively early morning for you.
Yep.
And I hope to see you again and hear you again soon. Anyway, we'll be in touch on a daily basis, I guess, on X anyway. So
yes. Thanks for having me. I appreciate it, and I hope y'all have a good rest of your day. I'm fixing to get mine started here in a few minutes.
All right.
Have
anyway, take care, Eric. See you soon.
Thank you.